So diving back into the retail sector, Vince, I'm anxious to get your thoughts on any short-term headwinds that investors need to be keeping in mind as all these retailers report this week.
Sure. So, as we discussed previously, we have incoming third quarter reports from companies like Macy's, JCPenney, Nordstrom.
So this will have all the back-to-school shopping, but it's really the prelude to the holiday season.
Exactly. So some things that I thought were particularly interesting, because earlier this week, a lot of these retail companies took a beating in the market. Their shares tumbled, 3-5% or more on some very bearish Wall Street reports. And these reports generally cited something where I think it's funny that it seems like even nature is acting out against, it's like stacking the odds against these companies, which is through the very warm weather that we've been enjoying recently, where all over the country, for both October and November so far, we're breaking records for warm weather. And what's happening is, when the winter is when the weather is really cold, shoppers don't want to go out and the stores suffer. And unfortunately, on the opposite end, when it's really warm, in this case, at this time of year, people are pushing off their winter clothing shopping.
Right.
So what's happening is that these retailers are ending up with a lot of excess inventory, especially for their cold weather apparel. And that's definitely going to be something that I'm sure is reflected for this quarter.
You've got me curious now. Will their inventory balances on the balance sheets this week, what will they be up a little
Exactly.
bit?
So that's definitely something that I feel will get covered by the management teams on their calls, and they will cite this as an issue. Something else also that's higher level is the U.S. dollar and the strength of that, because that's hurting. That's basically making it much more expensive for people to come to the U.S. as tourists. And Macy's, for the previous quarters, they cited the fact that weaker tourism hurt them in like major hubs like New York City in their flagship store, where the results simply weren't as strong because the goods are more expensive relative to the tourist local currency, and the fact that they're just not going to do as much spending. But that's something that's going to impact more of the the higher end retailers.
Right. So, real quick, just before we move on, what's the key takeaway if you own any number of these companies?
Well, for these two issues, I think it's the most important thing is that to remember that these are short-term headwinds. Of course, the strong U.S. dollar has been in play for almost 2 years now.
Right.
And some people believe that that's going to be the case for another year or two. But, you are looking at this from the foolish perspective of, is this, fundamental business a sustainable, strong one over 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
These are things to keep in mind and I think are very interesting as parts of the retail business and what they encounter, but not major hits on basically the investment proposition.
Right.